Welcome back, listeners, to The Brighter Side of Blue, the podcast, the worldwide podcast coming to you live from the Blue Line Technology Studios. I'm Danny.
I'm Tommy.
I'm JJ.
JJ, welcome. Hey, Tommy, our first sponsor of Blue Line Technology Studios.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you a little something about Blue Line, what they did for me when I was an active captain in the South Patrol Division.
I believe you were a major.
Okay, I was a major. Thank you for that. When you get promoted as much as I did, all the time getting promoted.
We can talk about the suspensions too, or just
No. I didn't mention the suspensions as part of the program.
All right.
But every week we had to go and talk to the chief of police and aldermen, and we're in the crowd. It was a big called ComStat, and we had to answer for the crimes in our area, in our jurisdiction. And you had to be familiar with them, and you had to have a solution to stop cause for further complaint. That was always the thing that they said. And we had several 7-Elevens in South Patrol Division, one in particular down at Kings Highway in Christie. They were always getting robbed, and in particular on the night watch. They couldn't find night watch clerks to run the 7-Eleven, which is a 24-hour operation usually. And so I'm going to ComStat after ComStat, and I could not. What could I do to stop those crimes besides putting a copper there? So over a beer one time with you tell me about Blue Line Technology and a solution that they had that required patrons to look up at a camera without a mask on, without a disguise on.
Yep.
And if they would look in and the camera would see that they were not disguised, it would open the doors.
Correct.
We went from, 25 nighttime robberies at that location to 0.
Yep.
Okay. And then we put it at Bates and Gravel, I believe. And that was one where they couldn't get anybody to work the night watch because there was a homicide there.
Correct.
On a night watch that was unsolved.
Yep.
So it all stopped. And so I so much appreciate the technology that Blue Line brought to the table for me because it made me look good. And I like to look good.
Yep. And just how
tell us about that technology.
Yeah, it's easy how it works. All they do is they put a camera.
They do, like he's the logistics guy behind the technology.
Right, well, it's pretty simple.
They do here is,
it's just a simple concept. And they put a camera above the door. They put a mag lock on the door, a camera and a speaker and a red light and a green light above the door. And when they activate the system, the mag lock locks the door. And then you have to present a human face to the camera. And as you walk up, when the camera...
How would producer John ever buy Fritos?
I don't know.
He would never be able to get in.
You get locked out. They put him up as a wanted because you can do that too. So
the human face thing throws that all off.
So when they walk up to the door, the speaker will welcome them and tell them to look at the camera for entry. And when they look up at the camera and they see a human face, the door pops open and then they go. And as long as they don't do anything, they don't steal, they don't do anything, that the store owner would want to know if they came back, the picture disappears. But if for some reason they give the store owner or the store personnel reason to not want them back in the store, they can simply enter that face. And that face will no longer be allowed to open.
If they came up again, looked up, it would not open the door.
So it's not trying to identify you. It doesn't care who you are. The human faces is all it cares about. And as long as you don't do anything, you never be in the system. And and here's a video of it in action in Yakima, Washington. This system here is at an AM, PM. And as you'll see, these robbers come up. They have guns and they have masks on. And they didn't get in. And away they go.
That was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So JJ, if somebody wanted to get more information on how to get this in their system, or how to get this more information on, how would they do that?
All they do is go to info@bluelinetechnology.com.
Yep.
And they can get right on.
Simple as that.
Hey, it worked. First-hand experience. So
hey,
kudos to that.
There's a story. I love the story where the guy goes up there. He just got out of the penitentiary, and he's kind of confused, but he decides to look at the camera anyway. Looks at it, goes in, robs the place. I think he was taken into custody.
That was at the Moto Mart at 270 in Riverview. That's got the system, and they had a guy go in there and they did a robbery. But what happened was he couldn't get in by being masked, so he slid along the door, and the gal who was in on the robbery let him in the door at 4 o'clock in the morning. But prior to that, he had gone in, used the system to get in and get a plastic bag. And so he used that plastic bag to 2 hours later when he went in and slid under the camera. And the gal let him in. He used that plastic bag for the robbery of the cigarettes and money. But they took the picture, the original picture, and they gave that to the St. Louis Police Department. He was caught within 24 hours wearing the same clothes.
Nice.
So,
The
so it does
technology
work.
It works.
Yes.
It was good.
Blue line technology.
There we go. Hey, we're not going to harp on this per JJ, but where you are now, increasing, we're at 365 cities, 9 countries. And last week we had a conversation about we're on every continent except Asia. And then my daughter Beppy texted me and said, really, you're in Antarctica? So I'm like, man, she kind of got me. I wasn't that good at geography and all that stuff. So I texted Tommy Sawyer. I said, are we in Antarctica? And he says, hell yeah, we are. We're in Argentina. And the way he says things, I'm starting to learn this being in work with Tommy. When Tommy says something, he says it with such authority and he's so sure about it that you can't really tell he's full of shit.
Oh, come on now.
Are we
I
in
know
Antarctica?
Yeah.
Now, how are you going to go there?
Because I right when you text that, I went and found this information, and then per this whatever site I got it from.
Oh, geez, here we go.
7 countries, and one of them's Argentina, maintain territorial claims in Antarctica.
Now,
Boom.
come on now.
Boom! We're in Antarctica.
I need to
deal with it.
I need
Deal
one of
with
our
it.
listeners that's a scientist. You're going to
then-
claim Argentina is Antarctica.
Yes.
Antarctica sounds cold, doesn't it,
It is in
JJ?
the book.
Yeah, sounds a little cold.
There's like 48 people that
Kind
live
of like
there.
it was here not too
We
long
got
ago.
it though.
And there's 48 people that live there.
Maybe
We got
60.
one of them. And one of them dumb bastards listens to our podcast.
Yep.
Okay. I'm challenging it. And I'm calling
It's-
BS. I'm throwing a red flag,
You're
producer
gonna have
John.
to, your territory. It's all
warranted.
about territorial control.
Territorial control.
Yeah. Then Argentina has a little bit of it over
right.
there in Antarctica.
You know what? You stressed me out with this. I'm just letting you
right
know.
again.
Moving forward as we traverse this podcast, I'm not taking what you say on the face.
We're down,
anymore.
baby.
Hey, we can
No.
debate this later.
Okay, sorry, JJ. You know what? Tommy just stressed me out. You know what I need? I need a Zen moment.
Yep.
I need a Zen
Don't
moment
we
from
all?
JJ.
Don't we all?
I
Back
have one.
by popular demand. What do you have, JJ? Give us some Zen, my
Well,
brother.
it-
Here's our Zen by
All right, take a
JJ.
deep breath, everyone. This is another anonymous. Take risks. If you win, you'll be happy. If you lose, you will be wise. That's it.
Man, are you getting these out of the same area in the library where Curious
Hey.
George is?
Hey,
That was good.
It was so
It's all
simple.
about taking
that's
risks,
what
baby.
it's about. Simple Zen.
We took a risk doing this podcast.
Take
All right, read
risks.
it again.
That's a fortune cookie one.
Okay,
ordered
can I
from
be
Harold's.
done? Can I be done with the Zen moments now?
No. Okay, do it
All
again.
right. Take risk if you want. Let's do it again. Take risk. If you win, you will be happy. If you lose, you will be wise. Let that sink in for a minute.
It's a hell of a statement.
It's a hell of a statement. I'm not feeling it.
Have you never taken
I'm
risk?
not feeling relaxed. I'm not.
You want me to do another one?
All right.
No, we can never give you 2 because then you go down that road. Pretty soon it's a
He's got a
Zen
good one for that. He
podcast.
told me his next one.
We're
next
not-
one's good. He told me about his next one.
I thought they came to you when you meditated. You can't have a library lined up.
I can be honest here
Meditates
right
a
now.
lot.
I didn't meant to start this whole Zen thing. It just happened. And now, 10 minutes before I got here, I remembered I had to find one. And that's the one I found. But
You called a kindergartner and
I looked
got
up the
some
60th,
two sentences.
60th motivational quotes.
Okay. All right.
Producer John's got an issue. After last week's show, I went and consulted with the legal division. You know, you guys unilaterally made Jack my boss.
Yes.
Well, we looked at case law. Well, you guys are all just Dan and JJ and Tom. I'm producer John. So I'm the only person in this group that has any rank at all or any title. So that technically makes me the highest ranking person in the organization.
Until Jack got here.
But you can't
Hire
I'm
him
the
to-
boss. I have to sign off on it. So I changed Jack as a producer of video operations now.
Okay.
But Jack I love you, but you can't make me punch in and punch out. It's not going to happen.
All right, we have conflict up top now.
So we have
we got JJ
we work
and Danny
hand in hand,
bickering.
right? So anyway, that's straighted out now. So
Hey, I'm podcast per.
So that means you're our boss.
yeah.
Hey, I'm just podcast.
Do we have to sign off on that? Is there? Do we get a sign anywhere?
No, you guys made me producer John. I have rank.
Okay.
John,
Now we have producer
John,
Jack now.
John, can I come back next week too?
Yes, obviously. Yeah.
I'm podcast to podcast.
If we get
Your podcast to podcast. JJ's podcast to podcast.
JJ, you're in charge of Asian operations,
I'm working on it.
I'm in charge of Antarctica operations.
Antarctica through Argentina.
Damn right.
Jesus. Tommy, what do we got?
So this week we got the Klier brothers. We just got done interviewing them. It was quite entertaining. They know how to talk. They know how to talk, put it that way. And then, but next week we got a real special show. It's going to be pretty powerful. We have Chief Steve Dodge of Sunset Hills coming in. He's going to talk about the losing a partner and everything that goes with that, which you can imagine is pretty powerful.
Well, he's a retired lieutenant from the city.
And he lost a partner while in the city, and he's a good friend of ours, and that's a show we're really looking forward to. So there's that, and then how can they support the show, JJ?
Oh, I got to go through that again.
You think?
Yeah.
You can just go on where you find your podcast and go down, hit the more button, and then you'll see our apparel line. You can order our apparel through that.
Find it on any of our social medias.
There you go. Thanks. Take that over for me, would you?
Yeah, I think I stumbled you on that one when I threw it your way.
I forgot that was my responsibility.
Exactly. Just like, subscribe, share.
We've lost total
Share.
control.
And buy merchandise. Under the description of every podcast is a more button.
Our first shipment is going out. Should have went out on Friday.
Yep.
People.
So come on now.
Send pictures of us, of you in our apparel.
You know, one of the things that somebody told me the other day is they said, hey, do you guys ever think about putting writing around the logo? Because people just come up and ask you, what's that? Well, that's your opportunity right there as one of our listeners. You just tell them exactly what we are and
Good point.
worth a listen. And so that's part of the thing. And one of the other things that was discussed, producer Jack brought it up, is that we might have to bring out some Huggy merch. Who's Huggy was one of the biggest questions that we get. So you never know. We might be doing some Huggy merch here in the near future.
Huggy's the glue that holds us
Yep.
together. Besides producer John, who makes his own rank, and
producer Jack.
producer Jack. Wow. And then, remember the ice storm we had? It was 2 Mondays ago, Tommy?
Yep.
Well, we talk about, snow days and people get to take off because there's ice. There's a 1/4 inch of ice on the ground and nobody can get to work. You know who can't take off? Policemen. We have a video from that ice storm. Is this officer work for you, JJ?
He does not now. He did. He's in the housing authority unit. He's a really good young man. He's a big guy, about 6'4", just a prince of a guy. And he had it was a big ice storm. It was bad. I mean, it was everything was shut down. The streets were covered with ice, and it's so deceiving because you can't. It doesn't look like it. So he decided to go test the waters or the ice and see how bad it was.
Because he knew he had to go into work.
Because he knew he had to go into work. And this was early in the morning. I'm guessing this was close to like 5 a.m. or 6
Yep. This is his ring bell. And the grass is, you can see ice on it. He's going to take the grass so he can get some traction. Doing
That
a
was
good
a
job.
smart move.
Yep.
He's smooth right here.
He's got
Looks
it.
up, doesn't see it.
He's curious.
There's his police reflection. That's his police coat. Has police on. Okay, he gets across
Come
the
on,
sidewalk.
get on over there. Get on over there.
Here we
Check
go.
the streets.
Here we go. Shh.
Oh, down goes Frazier.
Oh, jeez.
That's
brutal.
That's second
wrong.
one.
That's wrong to laugh at that.
That's
but-
second
It
one.
is. It's terrible to laugh at that.
He did. Got to give him credit. He called in. He said his back was hurting. He called in sick for 1 day. Sent this video to his sergeant, who sent it to me, and he showed up to work the next day. A little stiffer for wear, but he showed back up.
But he showed right back up.
He did.
You know what's missing from that video? All the neighbors rushing out to help a brother out because there was none.
It was early, man. They
The
kinda,
second
was early.
sound just, God, it got
yeah.
you. Oh,
That was a lot of air. Just
He gave us
rushing.
permission also to show that. So
Yeah. We'll be talking to his lawyer, I guess. Him and producer John have the same attorney. The whole Jack Milliken thing. Whatever. What else we got, Tommy? I'm all tied up. I'm all wrapped up in cords right now.
The other day, on January the 30th, at the North Patrol Station, Jimmy, you're more familiar with this. Why don't you take that over?
Colonel Cousins came up with this idea. He put Nick Sloan passed away 20 years ago on January 30th, and so they had a rolling memorial. They made this decal up they're putting out, and they put it on the back of a brand new police Tahoe. It says "End of Watch." It says a badge with the memorial band going through it, and the date that Nick was killed in action. His wife and son came out. We had the fire department showed up. Actually, there's a lot of people in the crowd right here listening to the podcast. I believe almost every one of them was there. It was a good showing of former police officers. It's very touching and pretty cool. And this car will be in the fleet, and it's on both sides of the police car in the back window. And people, when they drive this car, they'll see the Nick Sloan End of Watch. And
That's cool.
So
What are they calling it, producer John? They're calling it a
rolling memorial.
Rolling memorial.
rolling memorial for Nick Sloan.
And actually, Ryan said that this is the first of more, and he doesn't know how many more he's going to do, but he's going to go down the line and pick out other officers who are killed in the line of duty.
That's a great idea to honor, those the ones that are recent where they have family still around, to honor the family, and very cool. And like JJ said, a lot of our listeners, I was there, and a lot of our listeners came up and talked about the podcast. It was really cool.
You know, it's sad. These kind of things are sad, but they're always in a weird way like funerals. We've been losing a lot of old policemen, and it's like we go to these funerals and it's so much fun seeing everybody. And it's wrong to say, but it was good to see under the circumstances everybody that showed up. It was kind of cool.
Yep. It goes back to our point about it's a family. We're a family. Never quit being a family, and it's a huge family you'll be joining when you become a police officer.
Yes, sir.
Simple as that.
But let's go into the family of the week now. So the family of the week is going to be the Long family. For those that were on for a while, this is the young Jim Long. I believe his nickname was Harlan, wasn't it? Jim Harlan Long,
That was his.
or that's somebody's.
That was his middle name.
But anyway,
He had a lot
Jim
of-
Sr. was on from 1973 to 2008. Retired as a sergeant and did a lot of his patrol time in the 3rd District and a lot of his supervision time in the 5th District. And his wife, Sunny, was on from 1977 to 2015. She held many positions within the computer section throughout those years. Oldest son, Jimmy, who is JJ's partner. Heard many stories about him, and you'll hear many more, I'm sure. Jimmy Long was on from 1993 to 2005. He left there, and he is currently in DEA as a supervisor, and has traveled all over the country with his stuff there.
World.
And the world. Antarctica, no. That was nice out there. But then Jeff, the second son, came on in 1995, and he's currently still on. He's on the 2nd District Night Watch, correct, Jimmy?
Yes.
Yes, he is.
He was a detective along the way, held many positions, but now he's on the Night Watch in the 2nd District. And then the youngest, the baby, is John Long, came on in 2010. He has worked for Jimmy along the way, for JJ along the way,
yes,
and he is currently in SWAT, I believe, correct?
He is. He just had a baby.
So you add all that up, and the Long family has done 129 years of service to the city of St. Louis and the law enforcement community, and it's still counting. So that's pretty cool.
That's pretty impressive.
Yes,
very,
it is.
very, very impressive. So they're the family of the week this week.
Yes, they are.
And we already talked about what's coming up next week.
Yep. But I got to tell you one thing. I ran into Tony Lockenick, and I hate to keep bringing the Lockenics up,
Oh, geez.
but I ran into him. We were just having a beer. He was arguing his status on the Lockenick family ranking, of course.
Okay.
But, his brother Timmy, who was mentioned, and I got to set this up. And for those listeners that don't know, Timmy was involved in a horrific accident back in the day. Timmy was in Mobile Reserve. He was riding with Rick Will, and they pulled a guy over and Timmy was between the bad guy's car and the police car, and drunk. Somebody all busted up, ran in the back of the police car, and they crushed Timmy's legs, and it was as you can imagine. And this story will get better. I'm knowing that.
Yeah, I'm really happy about this one.
Timmy went. The conversation we were having, and we were talking about how many surgeries Timmy had, and Timmy, it's over 60, and but Tony told me a story, and you think this. We're tight with the Lochnicks, as everybody knows, and you think you hear all the stories that are involved in everything that goes in something like that. And but Timmy, they told him he'd never walk again. He's a stubborn bastard. Told him he wouldn't walk again. He walked again. They told him he'd never work again. He worked again. Came back on the police department. And I think he tapped out after like 35 surgeries or something, But anyway, so now we'll go back to the night of the incident. And Timmy said and this is coming from Tony, but Timmy said he remembered after the car had crushed into him, he had fell to the ground, of course, and he hollers out, and his partner Rick Will, "Rick, get me an ambulance." And as he looks up and he sees the bad guy who was standing on the curb. He falls down, he crumbles down to the ground, and he goes, "Rick, get me an ambulance too." So I didn't hear that story before, but I thought that was pretty good. Give me an ambulance too.
Oh my God!
Sure, he needed it.
And Timmy, I rode with Timmy after.
No, he was standing on the curb.
And there it goes. Down goes mobile.
He was standing on the curb away from the thing. And then when Timmy hollered for to get an ambulance, he just crumbled to the ground and said, "Give me an ambulance too."
Unbelievable.
That is
Rick.
good. I rode with Timmy when he came back. So after all the surgeries and after being told he's never be a copper, me and him were partners in narcotics.
That was pretty amazing. He lasted quite some time.
Oh yeah,
Before he had
he had good days and bad days in
check out,
pain,
yeah.
but he's a trooper.
Did he retire or did he go on disability?
He had to go out on disability because he couldn't.
It was painful.
Yeah,
It was getting tough to walk after that 35th surgery.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't believe he came back.
It was amazing.
No. Producer John, what do you have? Anything?
No.
Thank you for your input. JJ, anything? Before we get to the Klier brothers?
No, I'm good.
All right. Let's try to do better on the Zen next week.
I'll do better on the Zen, and I'm going to do better when you throw that to me. How do you follow us up?
Yeah, it's been like 7 podcasts in a row, and that's your
Right.
responsibility.
He gave it to me last week, only time.
There we go.
Here we go.
There we go.
Tommy, anything?
Yeah, go buy merch.
Yeah,
Help
buy some
support the
merch.
show.
Download the apps.
These people ain't free.
And here's the Klier brothers. Enjoy. Hit it, Huggy. Hit it, Huggy. Well, let's get to it then, Tommy. We got police legendary Sergeant Ronald C. Klier, one of the originators of the SCAT unit, Street Corner Apprehension Team.
Legendary unit.
Legendary unit back in the day. And his brother Denny. So we have 2 veterans, military veterans, 2 police veterans.
He was about to be drafted. He was 19 and a half. I just graduated from high school. I was going in to get it out of the way, and he jumped into.
All right.
He was about to go. I mean, he was going to get drafted.
I was ready.
You were ready to go? And so tell us a little bit about it. Where'd you go?
I was thinking about going to Canada to start with.
That wasn't your choice, though.
No, we just, one day we were talking about joining the service, and we said, well, let's go see a recruiter. We go down, we sign up, we come home, and my mother's a little Italian immigrant. She goes, what did you guys do today? I said, we joined the Air Force. She goes, what? And we want to go to Vietnam. And he goes, what? Well, then we come back. When we came back, we go, same deal. What are you guys doing? I joined the police department. She goes, are you trying to kill me?
True story.
That is pretty good. You're banging the table, Ron. And
I'm sorry.
our listeners in London think we're under barrage of, we're doing this.
I was going to tap dance.
We're doing this podcast from Ukraine.
So when you guys were in the service, Ron, you went to Vietnam, correct?
Eventually.
And
I was an air traffic controller. Okay. I went to Keesler. It was air traffic control school. Then I went to Eglin Air Force Base.
Okay.
And then from there, I volunteered to go to Vietnam. I went there.
And Dennis, where did you end up in the Air Force?
Obviously, we went to basic training at Lackland down in San Antonio, Texas, and I was a munitions specialist. So that's nuclear, chemical, biological, everything the Air Force has except ballistic missiles. And so I went to Denver to bomb school. And from there, I was assigned to NATO because the Russians were really bad in those days. And they had the Iron Curtain going, and they were invading countries. And they always felt that was the next war. And Vietnam was a shooting war, but it wasn't what was going to happen in Europe. So,
Right.
So
That's pretty good.
No, that's
So
gotta love
after-
our vets, right?
Yeah. Thank you for your service, you guys.
Exactly.
There was no
cash check or money order. The last name
I
is
got it.
Klier. First.
You're welcome, and here's my address.
And fellas, your father was a World War II hero.
Oh, no, he was a real hero. In fact, tell him. He knows all the stats on it.
No, I believe me, I do. I was his caregiver for the last 2 years of his life, but we grew up with it. Our dad flew 66 bomber missions in a B-26.
What was your father's name?
Chester P. Klier.
Chester P. Klier.
And by way of background, his father immigrated from Germany in 1902 to the United States. It's up in St. Paul, Minnesota. And he fought the Germans in all 5 of the major World War I battles that the United States Pershing's group fought in. And he was in trench warfare, got mustard gas twice, killed the Germans in the trenches, interrogated Germans, and came back here. And then my dad was World War II, 66 missions, bombed the Germans, bombed the Italians. My mother immigrated from Italy. So when Ron and I went into service one night, we were eating dinner at their house in Florissant, and I asked him if we had any Vietnamese in our family bloodline. He says, no, why? I said, because we sure like killing our relatives. He said, no, I think you're okay. So
We did one of those drums with the little symbol. Like,
But anyway, our father did fly 66 missions. He only had to fly 25. He almost went 3 tours. He shot down 2 German fighters. He was a flight engineer. They learn how to fly the bomber, and they refix it. They're kind of like the crew chief of a bomber. So he did that, and he shot down 2 Messerschmitts, 109s. And he received the Distinguished Flying Cross, which is 4th highest award we give, 3 below the Medal of Honor. He got the Air Medal 11 times. Each one of those is a Bronze Star. He got that 11 times. Got hit with flak in the face, got the Purple Heart, got several other battle stars.
A true war hero.
No, 100,000%. And our grandfather was too. He actually fought, believe this or not, Pancho Villa on the Mexican border. So we always had trouble with the border. That was back in the 1900s. And then he went from that frying pan to the fire to World War I over in but he was a doughboy. He had that. And he was the big red one. You've seen that. You've seen the thing, and that's. But he had. We had his helmet, his little English pie helmet. I get a kick out his gas mask, original gas mask. Our father, we had his flight jacket, a swastika. He chopped off a Focke-Wulf 190.
German helmet.
A German helmet. That's a lot. It was a Luftwaffe helmet, which meant
German helmet.
Yeah, and what it did is they bombed a field in Paris that the Germans occupied, but they all fled. So my dad talked his pilot, which is illegal or not allowed, I should say. And they landed on that field. My dad took his little fire axe, ran out of his bomber, chopped off a swastika off the tail of a German Focke-Wulf fighter, saw the German helmet, which the Luftwaffe, they all had decals that meant something, and his was a Luftwaffe. It was a German Air Force base. He took that. So we have some really neat
Took
memorabilia.
the head out. Dumped the head out of the helmet when he picked it up.
Yeah, it was just a little bleach.
That'd be a good souvenir.
He wanted to keep the head, but they wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, it had very good eyebrows and a nice haircut.
Okay.
But the point is, with a grandfather
well
World War I, highly decorated, and our father, highly decorated, if he'd have been a Marine, we'd have been Marines. He'd have been Army, we'd have been Army. He was
that's
Army
pretty
Air
cool.
Corps, but it was considered Air Force, and he was so proud that we went in the Air Force.
It's a lot of
only thing
service
we-
out of your family, and that's something to be proud
Yeah,
of.
no,
The
it's
closest we came is this close to getting good conduct medals, and that's it.
And you couldn't pull it off.
Yeah, couldn't do it.
It's tough to fill those shoes, though,
yeah.
when after listening to those stories
Well,
about
why
that.
even
but
try?
then, right.
That's like trying to step in behind Tom Brady. Forget it. I'm not throwing it.
Were you in the Air Force band? The way you're drumming the table, I thought
sorry.
maybe you might have been the drummer
keep
boy.
thinking- I keep thinking
little
I-
drummer boy over here. You're killing us.
I keep thinking there's an attorney across here and the IEDs here questioning me, and I'm trying to tap.
Those
So then
days
you
are
guys
behind us.
Get out of the service, and then you guys almost together.
I got out
start
in
your police
February
career.
of '69. He got out a few months later. He was in Tet Offensive in Vietnam in '68, and he got out a few months after. Why he was over there, I wanted to be a lawyer. So don't ask me why. Well, money, I guess, is I was thinking money.
And your ability to talk.
Yeah.
at a very high rate of
I'm
speed.
working on coming out of my shell. But anyway, I thought, I'll be a lawyer. So I thought going to GI Bill, get a little help there and do it. So I had to get a regular job, and our parents didn't have a lot of money, so I did that. But anyway, I started doing that, and I went through the police. I thought we met a county police officer named Paul Hinton, and one of the first guys I met in St. Louis. Again, we're not from here. And I thought, that might be, I asked him about the job, and he said, it's pretty good. So anyway, I said, that's probably a good thing I could do. And one thing you do when you're in the military, you do a lot of things with other guys. You
You
fight
don't have to
together.
elaborate. You don't have, we can just move on from that.
Yeah, I understand. Well,
We've been teamwork.
Hey, I keep telling you, you gotta go like this.
Teamwork.
We've been teamwork.
Yeah, hey,
wait a minute.
Camaraderie and teamwork.
I actually had stock in the penicillin companies back in the day.
All right.
But the truth is, I'm just saying, you miss the camaraderie of it. You fight each other, but when you're out in the street.
Well, we talk about the police family. Was it the same
thing.
with the military
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
when we got on it. I said, hell with a lawyer. So I got the pre-law degree. I got the business degree. I didn't care about money anymore.
Yeah.
And I had a great career. Helicopter pilot, narcotics, Kinlock.
And we'll get into some of that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But then, Ron, you followed right after
Well,
that.
he took his test, got accepted. I stayed drunk for 6 months. And then, in fact, I told my father, I said, I'm thinking of becoming a policeman. I was also looking at air traffic control. And I didn't do the air traffic control, but my friends did. And all of them got fired when Reagan fired everybody. So I probably would have got fired too. But
You
I said,
definitely would have got fired.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I would have went on strike with him. Yeah. So my dad says, don't be a policeman, man. You're going to get killed. And 6 months later, he says, hey, maybe you ought to think about being a policeman. I said, oh, okay.
So,
They wanted him out of the house.
Yeah, he drank all the beer.
right. So then, Denny, you went to the county.
Went to
and
the
then,
county.
Ron, you went to the city.
In the same class.
We went in the same class.
Oh, you guys were in the same
Oh,
class.
yeah, it was a
Okay.
joint. It was a joint academy back then.
It was class 3, 69. And again, my process was 6 months. His was several weeks because the city, you guys had 2,400 sworn officers and you wanted everybody you could get. And at the time, we had the SDS Weathermen, Vietnam riots. We had the Black Liberators, the Black Panthers, and they wanted guys that could take a punch, as they say, and give a punch. And that's what you needed back in the day. And so his process went really fast, and we ended up in the same class, which shocked me. I mean,
Like I went in there, took the test. He said, "You want your gun and badge now?" And I said, "Well,
They need that system back.
It's funny you say that, though. So, little trivia. So, my class was 87-1. It was the first all-city class at that academy. It was always joint before that,
Right, right.
city and county.
yeah, it just turned it.
And on day one, they swore us in and gave us a badge.
Oh, yeah, us too.
Yeah, I'm like, day one, we got a badge. Didn't get the gun, but
You ran around flashing it too, didn't you?
oh, hell yeah.
Well, let me tell you
Yeah.
something. They give us the badge, and I'm at a bar called the Ocelot with Georgie McDonough. And this guy starts fighting with somebody. So I come up and I take the badge out and I say, "Hey, quit fighting
Almost
with him.
police.
Police, quit fighting." And he looks at me and he says, "I'll shove that bass up your ass." And I went, "Oh."
That's
I put the badge back and said, "Okay, note to self: if I don't have a gun and handcuffs, don't even talk to anybody."
So both of you were in narcotics throughout your careers, and
That's
one
the
of
most difficult interview you guys ever did.
no,
No,
not at all.
it's a piece of cake. We haven't said anything.
Yeah.
Denny never shuts the hell up. You pound the fuck out of the table. Every other second,
That's-
Denny's
hey,
snitching on you about something.
It's
This
that
is
natural,
perfect.
It's natural rhythm. I can't
We're
help
on it.
You know?
This is gonna be perfect.
This is perfect.
This is
Being on
right
the
down
table
our
and
alley.
playing a
Right?
horn or something.
Hey, let's jump to the police department. So Tommy always asks a question.
And we were both in narcotics. I think
Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah, go along your line.
So, and
I'll
one of
answer your
the
question.
episodes about some undercover work, and Denny's got a story here, but I'd really like to start with Ron. And Ron, you started in what district?
I started in the Penrose district.
Fifth district, okay.
in uniform for about 4 years. Then I went in the 5th Bureau for almost 10. And then went into undercover narcotics for 5 years.
Ron, you do a lot of undercover work while you're a detective,
Right,
And
right.
then you get made
I get made.
sergeant.
And then I go to the 8th district, so I thought they were mad at me.
Okay.
And I stayed there and
I was with you in the 8th.
8 months. In fact, we were both sergeants. And I was there about 8 months. In fact, I'll tell you a little 8th district story.
We're ready.
I'm working a night watch, right? I'm bored to death. And I'm on King Drive. And I'm just saying, man, I got to find something to do. So I look down King Drive and I see all these businesses. And there's refrigerators and stoves on the sidewalk, taking up half the sidewalk. I said, that can't be right. So I get a hold of Gary Marie. And I said, look, I want you to give a summons to everybody on this block.
Tri-car driver, Gary Murray.
Yeah, give it summons to everybody with these refrigerators and stuff on the sidewalk because the doors are on them and everything. So he does. The next day, I come to work. The sidewalk is clean. The captain calls me and says, Klier, get in the office. The captain wants you. I went, oh, here we go. You know, I just pissed off all those people, right? I get in the office. He says, Ron, did you tell those people to move all that stuff? I said, yes, sir. He goes, amazing. I'm giving you a commendation. That's like a police, what would they have? Police, the police groups, what'd they call it? Cops Project or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What the hell
He
they
said,
call
well,
it?
we caught that as a cops project, and you're getting a commendation. I called my wife. I said, you ain't gonna believe this.
Was that Captain Donnell Whitfield?
Whitfield, yes.
Yeah, that was our captain.
Or
Now, remember those days, Ron, when the captain's office had a screen, even though it was indoor, it had a screen door. And as a patrolman,
You knocked at
do
the
you
screen
think you
door.
ever went into the captain's office? I'm trying to think if I was ever in the captain's office.
Whitfield's?
Yeah.
He called me in there one time, because remember he had this rule, if you arrested a burglar, you had to call ETU, seize all their clothes. We get these two guys, it was a window smashing. These two guys have pale yellow pants, not a drop of dirt on them, right? They reach in the window and grab some booze, but they didn't go in. He said, well, and he was going to write me up because I didn't. I said, Captain, there was no dirt on their clothes. It was just a waste of time. I would shut down the whole crew. Amazing. That's a good allocation of your people. Okay.
Common sense.
Slid again.
You know what? But my point was, you never spoke to the captain. Now I do remember.
Back in the
I had to
day,
go in
no.
there one time. So me and my partner, we coded we thought it was an accidental fall. This lady fell down her second floor apartment steps all the way to the bottom, and she died, and it was an accidental injury, except for the fact that
You pushed her?
she was pushed down. So I coded it a 91. That was an accidental injury. Turned out to be a homicide. So he did call me in on that one.
Good call.
Is that one of your suspensions?
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's
see,
one of my-
you're kind of
Your first.
trying to hold the murders
That
down.
was
so
suspension
your
number
heart was in
one
the right
of
place.
many.
Well, then
Yeah.
Ron, and then the show's about Undercover, like I said, and then you went on from narcotics and got obviously very seasoned in narcotics and what you were doing, and they put you after your little stint there in the 8th District. They put you in SCAT, and SCAT, for the listeners that don't know, was a wild group. It was a necessary group. Drug sales were out of control. Crack had it was taking over the city. And Ron, tell us how that unit started, and give us like the anatomy of that unit.
First of all, when they called me to do this, back in those days, if you did a dope deal, you had to make 3 buys. So they said, we're going to make 1 buy, and then you're going to bust the guy. And I says, the circuit attorney won't issue a warrant on 1 buy. So we go back and forth, and they said, no, they're gonna. And then Hackett says, well, if we make a 1 buy, we got to wait till a jury trial convicts them. If they don't convict them, the unit's gone. So I said, I think they'll convict them. And we ended up making 8,500 arrests, almost 99% conviction, 99% warrants issued. And it was probably the most successful undercover unit ever, as far as just, cleaning stuff. The greatest thing about it was we had a hotline, which we started, and people could call in. And they'd say, like, especially elderly people, they'd say, hey, there's some guy in a red sweatshirts in front of my house selling crack cocaine. And they didn't have to get involved. We'd go there with the car, send in undercover. I'd push a guy in there in a wheelchair or something. He'd buy dope, boom, we'd pop him. So they never knew. And I had Asians, I had Hispanics, blacks, whites, females. So they never knew.
Right. Break down an actual SCAT arrest. Tell us about a buy and then what happened immediately after a buy. Because you were to
You want a funny buy or you want a good buy? All right.
give us both. We have time.
Okay, I'll give you a
Plus, we
funny
can cut
one.
it out. We have to cut
I
a
had
lot of
this
drumming out
I had this
anyway.
Asian kid that worked for me, right? So I said to him when he came to the unit, I said, can you speak a foreign language? He goes, oh, yeah, fluently. I said, perfect. I said, you got to get on the set, talk to these guys, throw your language out there, and then do the deal. And they'll throw dope at you because they'll think they'll rip you off. He goes, okay. So we get all set up. He gets on the dope set. And all of a sudden he starts talking Spanish. And I go, what the hell's he doing? The dope guy got so scared he ran away. He goes, this guy's an Asian guy talking Spanish. I'm out of here. And he takes off. And I see him later. I go, what are you doing? I mean, how are you talking? He goes, I thought you could speak a foreign language. I said, yeah, I thought you spoke Korean, man. He goes, oh, no, Spanish. I said, Spanish?
That's an assumption.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had a hell of an assumption there.
All right, now break down a buy.
A typical buy. Like,
Yeah.
talk about like
the street
the-
corner apprehension team.
Talk
SCAT.
about your pre-meeting, what you're going to go through at a pre-meeting.
Okay.
You guys identify an area.
I had 10 people that worked for me, and I would rotate them in and out. I'd put a seasoned veteran with a young officer. And I had 3 rest crews, and I had people we call rovers that would cover the buyers. And so we would have a meeting, and we had a list of street corners we had to try. Now, if they called me on the air with the telephone, we'd move to there. And I'd say, look, we're going to here tonight. You know, Johnny's going to buy, and boom, boom, boom. And they would go in, but they had money that was marked. We had we'd take photostatic copies. They would do the buy. We had a van that would either videotape it or take pictures of them. Then they rest crews, once he said the deal was down, they would swoop in, lock them up, take the buy money back, which would match our money, and then boom. We had every news crew in the city that rode with us. And they loved us because they could we'd do 3 deals like in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And they would put it on the news, and they were done. They could go out and eat.
And you made the front page of was it the Sun, the St. Louis Sun newspaper? What was the newspaper? You were on the front cover.
Second issue.
Second issue ever.
And I had to write a letter to the NAACP because they sent a letter to the chief saying, what the hell? This guy's jamming his gun in this guy's stomach. What's going on? And I said, no. I says, the shirt was blowing towards me, and I'm holding him. Hey, it worked. Anyway, it was blowing towards me, and he ended up, we arrested him.
Okay.
Well, there was 3 of them. One was escaped the penitentiary. One did the dope deal, and then another one was wanted for robbery. And so it was really a good case, but the Sun they did pictures and a little bit of writing, so they didn't explain it. So I had to write this thing and explain it But I'll tell you when it's a little funnier than that. Police commissioner's in England. He's coming through Upper Hayford Airport, and he's walking, and he sees a paper box, and he looks over there, and there we are on the front page. It's a different picture, but with the whole SCAT unit's on the front page, and I got this cold python,
Yeah, you always carried that big old python.
That's my baby.
Yeah.
Nickel-plated python. Hand-carved grips.
Yeah.
Not a bit. I don't go for anything glitzy anyway, but
yeah, right. Okay. You can't get any more pins on your hat, for God's sake.
But anyway, we do this. He sees that, and he calls back to St. Louis. He says, hey, I'm in England, and I'm looking right now at a picture, and it looks like our police department. This guy's got a big gun pointed at a bunch of people. What's going on? They saw that's the SCAT. And what happened was the England had sent a reporter over. He rode with us, and he did a big article.
Oh, my God.
And we were on the front page of The Guardian, which is an English paper. So I thought, how many people can say that, That almost went.
Now, one of the things you did every single arrest, because you were going to write the reports later, you would take a picture with a SCAT number, right? Yeah, it was hard to go to lunch with Sergeant Klier because, somebody, busboy would come out of a kitchen. He goes, oh, shit, that was SCAT case number 862.
Or you just would say, hey, number 9, we need more mustard.
Well, actually, I did an internship, if you remember. Towards the end, I did it when I rode with Mikey Mueller, who's now a major.
Okay, so that didn't go south, right?
No, but can you imagine he's a major now, the knucklehead? But he's a good guy. But one of the key words you always had to use, I remember, was when they had it mic'd up, they were undercover, they had a mic on, and when they said that, look, that'll work, right?
That'll work.
That'll work, and then we knew.
So that'll work, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yep.
And actually, the hardest thing I had to convince people, we'd come at them from 4 points of the compass. In a normal police situation, when somebody runs, boom, they get dusted off after you catch them, right? I said, look, do not touch these people. Grab them, handcuff them, because you're going to slow us down. And for a few cases, it was hard because at the end, they want to tackle them, and and the guy's got a tooth sticking out of his head. And you go, okay, now we got to go to the hospital.
Yeah, you just messed everything up.
Yeah. So after a while, it was so easy, they did it.
I think we'd do 2, then we'd take a lunch break,
Yeah.
and then we'd come back and do the 3rd.
Then do the 3rd one.
So you had to rotate them buyers a lot.
I had 3 people that we would rotate. And then they decided, said, you got to get everybody buying dope. And so I had a guy named Jim Molden.
Oh, God, yeah.
He was my partner forever.
Yeah.
I said, Jim, do you think you can buy dope? And Mueller, too. Mueller was an excellent buyer, too. I said, do you think you can buy dope, Jim? He goes, yeah. And he wore this Massey Ferguson vest with a Massey Ferguson truck hat. And he would pull on the set, and he'd hit these prostitutes, and he'd say, I need a fat 20. Then we can go party. So they just threw it at him. So he was one of the best.
Quick.
Mueller was really good. I mean, they loved him.
But then there was also times, obviously, and as you can imagine, in that job, it gets dangerous. And you've had officers hurt. Can you, there's one incident that kind of sticks out?
I had one officer, Witherspoon. He got slugged in the head by a beer mug, had a concussion. The guy that hit him was a drunk in the neighborhood. He thought he was a dope dealer, and that's why he hit him. But we arrested him. And I said, well, obviously he did a good job. They thought he was a dope dealer, and he passed it off. So,
How many times did you guys get robbed doing that?
okay, we only about 3 times. And one time, Latricia Allen, the guy comes
Queen.
up with a sawed-off shotgun, the Queen Thunder,
Queen Thunder.
comes up with a sawed-off shotgun, and she fires. I think she fired. I don't know if we had the pistols then. I think we had the pistols. She fired the whole thing from the driver's side out that window. 4 feet? Didn't hit nothing. And he got so scared he ran away. But anyway, I had never had a person get shot or stabbed. I'll tell you what, Illinois State Police, they called me one night, and they had some incidents where their people had shot at people after 2 or 3 deals. And they said, call that guy in St. Louis and ride with him, because they do all kinds of deals. They don't shoot anybody.
How about car chases?
So they send me, oh, well, that's another whole story. Now you're talking about when me and Hyla, we were set up at Grand Teresa. Or
In SCAT?
Yeah, Teresa Park. And we're facing there, we're going to do the deal around the corner. And all of a sudden we hear a gunshot. And we turn around, and there's a guy on his knees, and this guy shoots him right in the head. We go, what? So we turn around and come after him. Well, as soon as we turn around, they start shooting at us. So I grab the guy. Now he's bleeding from the head. Throw him in the SUV, and we take off after him. We're shooting, they're shooting. And Wagner goes, where's the victim? I said, I got him with me. And he goes, you got him with you? I said, no, I'm not letting this guy run off. And you say the guy never got shot, and I made it up. So the funny thing, though, there's always humor in this job. But the guy, all the shooting's going on, and the radiator gets hit and everything. And the bad guy's sitting up, or the guy that's the victim. And he goes, get those son of a gun. He said, used a different word than that. But and I said, and the minute he hears the gunshot, he hits the floor, and he says, I'll be down here if you need me. I said, you'll be the first one I call. But anyway, we chased him from Grand Teresa all the way to the cathedral, running gun battle, traffic everywhere. 2 of my cars got their tires shot out, and we had a tire and a radiator shot out. The interesting thing about this whole escapade, they call this the Ron Klier Special Orders, because this prompted 3 special orders concerning pursuits that you couldn't do. So
I was a witness, Ron.
now you're going to come in on me too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We were coming. I was in Mobile. We were coming east on Lindell when you guys were coming west, and that's when you guys got them stopped, and then you start, the shootout, and then the Mobile Reserve coppers got up to the. But I was there when the shooting started. It was intense.
The humorous thing about that, we're shooting at this car, right in front of the church. 10 priests are walking to church. They all hit the deck.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're praying on the ground with their raised rosaries and
Well, the bad part of that was for me is that me and my partner had to take the guy to the hospital. The guy that you guys shot.
You got the hospital detail.
Yeah. So we get him to Barnes, which was 2 blocks away, and the guy was shot in the neck, but it wasn't really bad. It was, he wasn't even bleeding.
you were in Mobile, right?
Yeah.
Well, hey, all the time Mobiles, SAC guys, and we had to handle details for you guys.
We always took our own guys
It was just
to the
payback.
hospital. But the doctor said, he's like checking this guy out, and everything's fine. But then he goes, what did this young man do? He said, well, he shot at the police. He goes, oh, really? And he brought out this big, long swab and just jammed it in that bullet hole. And the guy starts screaming. And he goes, oh, you want to shoot the police, huh? And the guy goes, he goes, you're not a real doctor. But
The last thing with SCAT that I want to get to is that how many times did you guys go to the same corner all the time?
This is amazing. The first month we had SCAT, every night we went to Clare and Ashland and did 3 dope deals. We'd do one, go around the block, do another one, around the block, and do the third one. For a month. And that's when they said, my God, this is unbelievable. You guys, they moved us to the 8th district, and then we started moving all over. But
the other picture that I like is there's the old SCAT gets disbanded at one point.
Right.
For a short period of time. And then, everybody starts freaking out because there's nobody dealing with all these street corner sales, and they bring you guys back. And you guys had that sign that you would post on the nearest telephone pole.
Well, supposedly.
SCAT is back.
It said, beware, SCAT is back. They had thousands of them printed up with this sticky on one side. So they'd stick it on the windshield of the car.
Oh, they would do it.
Well, we do it.
Okay, I'm
on the
sorry.
windshield, and occasionally the sign went across somebody's face, and it was tough glue. So, yeah.
It was tough.
Policemen are not going to just roll over on this. I mean, but they made thousands of these signs. I got a box of them. It's still at home, but it says "Beware, SCAT's back."
Nope.
And
Nope. It was just a message because it was that popular, and it was, I mean, just the cases you guys made with, and the people that went through that unit. I mean,
146 officers went through that unit.
all great people.
Yeah. Well, a
know.
couple screwed up, but
It
doesn't exist anymore.
We're all little. It doesn't. It,
when,
it, it
when
was,
you're great on a curve, a couple, you're going to lose a couple.
What were you going to say?
it's not there anymore, and I think it is because it is that dangerous.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
the numbers that you had with the just one person getting hit over the head with, and again, that's horrible in itself. But the fact that they did all that and didn't get in trouble it's actually an accolade to you as a supervisor of running shit right. That's pretty commendable.
Actually, you didn't mention, but actually, you would do reversals too, right?
Yeah,
put you
that's
in the
funny too. I go to see Margaret Owens in the lab, and I said, "Look, I need you to make me some imitation crack cocaine." She goes, "Okay," and she starts playing with it. Because I had called Florida, and I said, "Well, how do you guys do reversals?" And the Florida sheriff says, "We use real dope." And I went, "Oh no, we can't use real dope because these idiots will try to eat it, and we'll have a death on our hands, a wrongful death, and I'll be in the penitentiary." So Margaret kept making it, and it kept coming out real white. I said, "I don't understand this, Margaret." She goes, "Well, then finally she starts using filthy utensils like they use." And then she matched it perfect. I said, because they don't wash
Rusty
nothing. It's not
knives.
like they got a dishwasher.
So how would a reversal go?
Okay, a reversal, I'd put 3 people on the corner, 2 guys to cover the UC, and they'd sit there on a corner. And we had a video camera. We'd video the whole deal. And they were all wired up. Everybody was wired up. And they'd come in, do the deal. They would sell the dope. This started because people said, "Well, you don't lock up the people that come in from the county. You only lock up the people in the city." We said, "Okay, we can lock up people in the county." So, and we got helicopter mechanics. We got all kinds people that were married, people that had jobs.
Yeah.
It was the direct opposite, where the people we locked up selling dope were usually convicted felons, dropouts, stuff like that. So,
Vice versa, yeah. When the people that you didn't ever expect to come down there in the corner.
like a helicopter mechanic,
Right.
Fort Rucker. He comes all the way down here to buy crack.
Right.
So,
And that was those days, and the guys you had in there, and then there's too many to name them all, but they were crazy, and that was a great
I had
unit.
some great guys: Stokes, Mueller, John Hyla was tremendous.
I think the Murph was down there.
Oh yeah.
But they were efficient and they were safe and they did it right.
I still can't believe those numbers.
Tony Anderson is running for sheriff. He's going to run for sheriff, I
Okay.
believe, and he was one of your.
Tony Anderson. He's sitting in his van in front of his house.
Remember, he's running for sheriff.
I better not tell you the story.
So now we'll get to Dennis. And Dennis, you went to the county, and then you had some pretty interesting jobs in the county, and one of them being a helicopter pilot. So while you were out at Lambert, you did an undercover operation.
Actually, it was, and what the deal was, my roommate was, his name was Larry Watsack, and his brother was a city copper, Watsack. I don't know if anybody's been around that long, but Larry he ended up being a major in the county, but we were roommates, and he was a detective in narcotics. And he told me one night, he says, "Hey, up around Hazelwood High School, there's a farmhouse across the street." I said, "Yeah, I'm familiar with it." He goes, "You're on nights." He said, "Do me a favor, just buzz that damn thing, come in top speed, do your little dipsy doodle things you do, and hit them with that 3.5 million candle power, harass them." He said, "We're trying to make a case. They're selling a lot of dope at the high school. I mean, a lot of dope." And he goes, we can't get in there, but he said, "We can sure make," how dopers are. They're all paranoid. So I said, "Okay." So one night I get a north departure out of Lambert. I'm going up Lindbergh, and I'm going towards, that area up around Florissant. And I look off in the distance at about 500 feet, and I can see a brake light in pure darkness. And I knew where it was. And I said, "That's the farmhouse." So I told my observer, get that. There's a 2-step process on that 3.5 million candle power. Now, to put that in perspective, if you're over Busch Stadium at 500 feet, every person in there at night, pitch black, could read a book. So that's how bright that.
Are you serious?
Oh, definitely. It's so bright, it's incredible. So I said, it's a 2-step process. Fire up, get the first button, hit it. And I say, now do the second. Now there's a maneuver in a helicopter called an ag turn, short for agriculture. You see a crop duster goes down. He gets to the end of the field because the fuel is so expensive and the time on a helicopter. They go straight up at the end where our airplane has to go by and come back. Helicopter goes straight up. You flip it over. You're weightless for a few seconds, but you just hover there at a down angle. It's pretty. It's a neat roller coaster
Yeah,
ride.
sounds fun.
And I'm not
doing
city.
it. And I'm not
I've
interested.
had city coppers yell in my helmet, "I'll kill you if you don't land this thing," because they were that scared.
Yeah.
I got the little county policewoman going, "Wee!"
Yeah.
So everybody had a different take. But anyway, I see that thing. I come in. I said, "Now." I hit it 100 miles an hour, went straight up, rolled over, came straight down, and I'm looking straight down that brief 2 or 3 seconds, and that light came on. And the guy in the car is like this with a big bag of dope, pills and all kind, heavy dope. And the guy in the farmhouse is looking up. I mean, if we'd had a camera, it'd have been wonderful. And he had his 9-year-old daughter in the car with him. Well, as soon as he saw me and that happened, he panicked, he took off. So he's going down New Halls Ferry, and I called it in pursuit. Well, everybody's going, helicopters in pursuit of a car? What the hell's he doing? They're picturing like I'm on the ground, I guess. So as I'm going down there, a couple of uniformed guys, we're doing 100 miles an hour. He gets in behind him. It's like a movie. They throw the dope out. And it hits one of the police cars on the windshield and stays there. Perfect evidence.
Perfect.
So now the chain of evidence is perfect. So now
Just drive the car to the left.
here comes more uniformed cars. Everybody's converging. He gets up at Lindbergh and Halls Ferry, and there's a Shell station used to be on that corner. He gets in that line, and he's going around the pumps. Well, the cops are doing it. It's like a keystone. I'm watching this from here. One crashes into a pump, no fire. The car gets wrecked. The pump's wrecked. Another 2 cars hit each other, police cars. And I'm going, oh, my God. So I tell the observer, we can't let this guy get away. He's the biggest doper in St. Louis County. Long ponytail, just a typical, but he was the biggest doper. So I said, we're not supposed to land because then we're just a person on the ground.
Yeah.
I said, to hell with this. So I told my observer, hang on, brother. I came down across Lindbergh, blocked all the lanes with the chopper, still running, jump out my pistol. Here he comes, locks his brakes up, slides up to me. And I run up to him, grab him out of the car. And everybody's everybody up in North County, it's a big crowd. They're all going, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's like a movie. So now this is going on. I pull out a bag, $20,000 cash. And Ron told me before, he said, if you ever get a lot of cash, call the IRS. They'll come out. They'll hit these guys for financial penalty.
Different stuff.
Right. So I said, whose money is this $20,000? He looks at me and goes, I don't know, officer. It must be yours. I've never seen it. I said, bribery and dope. So we busted. Anyway, he turns out he is the biggest doper. So we get the IRS comes out that night, which Ron said they would. They come out. They hit him with $250,000 in estimated taxes that he would have made had he continued with his, illegal activities. So they took his house, 5 cars, motorcycles, boats. So as I learned, you can do a lot with dope that you don't have to make a dope case.
Oh, yeah.
So of course we didn't publicize it a lot because you don't want to land that chopper on a busy street.
Not all the time, no.
Not normally.
Right.
So I did that.
That prompted a special order, by the way.
Another special order?
So I want to.
Don't land your helicopter
I'm just
on
going
the
to keep
highway.
flip flopping back and forth with you guys because one of the times that I ran into Ron Klier was when he actually was going through the end of his career. And where did he work at the end of his career, Danny? He worked for you,
With
didn't
me,
he?
yeah, in internal affairs.
And JJ, you have I thought it was a good idea when Ron Klier was in IED. What happened there, JJ?
Yeah, he'll remember this, I know. Back in the day when housing and mobile, we'd book everybody in headquarters. We'd book the prisoners. And actually it was housing's little office, but they let mobile guys go in there. One night we're in there and there's probably 6 or 7 officers. They're booking prisoners. There's tables and computers down there. And an officer went up to found a bottle rocket, and they snapped off the stick and lit it and just threw it in the middle of the room, and it went around and it blew up and everybody laughed and it was funny. And no big deal. We go on. We have finished our day. About 3 days later, it's daytime. About 4 or 5 of us are down in the office doing reports, and you walk in. Well, you're an IED sergeant, but everybody knows you. And you're
Very good looking at the time.
yeah, and we're all like, "Hey, what's up, Sarge?" And we're all like, "Glad to see you." And this is what you say verbatim. You say, I've been up in IED for a while, and I hear a lot of crazy stories. I know when they're bullshit and when they're real. He said, we had a guy come in and said that one of you guys shot a bottle rocket at him and hit him. And we're like, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. So you're kind of walking around and you open the first drawer and you pull out a gross of bottle rock
Pull a bottle rock.
and he throws them in the middle of the floor and says, I suggest you guys get rid of those.
And I left.
So I would make
So this is too easy.
I want to make a confession though. I did.
It was you?
It was me.
Oh, jeez.
But you know what? We never shot. It was a lie because we didn't shoot it at him. We just snapped it off, threw it in there, and it was like everybody just kind of Katie bar the door and whoever
It's like
gets
having
in.
a slapper with blood on his hand.
Well, one of the things that I would hear
Statute of
that,
limitation is up on that.
one of the things I hear that Ron would do is he would take the complainants who would come in and they were just hell bent on making a complaint on somebody. That's what they wanted to do. And Ron found out that sometimes you just got to sit down and talk to somebody. And you would give them candy, Cokes,
out of Stanley Mirza
chips,
Jesse's
White
store.
Castles.
Well, yeah. He
We had a store, and as soon as Mama came in with the kids, I started loading them up with castles and candy. And by the time they were done, she thought she was, it was Christmas,
yeah.
and she left. And
He was classic. He'd say they'd be in there for 45 minutes eating and drinking before they'd forget why they came in. Literally.
hey, one time a guy comes in, and he's got a big afro, spider webs in it. I mean, this guy looks like he fell down a chimney. And he's sitting there, and his clothes are filthy, and he's sitting there, and we're talking. And Colonel Heath walks through the room. And I said, well, let me ask you something. Why do you think people make fun of you? He goes, I don't know. I said, well, I don't know either. You look good to me. He looked at this guy and went, oh, my God.
Oh.
But you know what? Chief Henderson had a philosophy in IAD. It's like a car wash. They come in. If you can talk them out of it and they get a clean car, they're happy. If you run them out of the office and they're mad, it's going to bounce back on me, and it's a dirty car. And that's what
Yeah.
So
It worked.
and most people, they didn't want to do anything. They just wanted to talk to somebody, And believe me, if I talk to anybody, since they're not trying to get me in trouble, so I
Right.
Ron would give away that free wax too
Yeah.
with it.
Oh, yeah.
You got the car wash and the wax when you talk to Klier.
Wax on. Wax
Ron, I
off.
got a question thinking about this. Now, before you were assigned to IAD, how many
Hey, this
times?
is our podcast.
Hey, I'm taking over. How many?
I told you you'd take over this whole show.
This is an important question. How
You
many
have a
times?
podcast next door, you guys will be out of business.
Before you were in IAD, how many times were you in?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you something.
On your own.
I had to print out all my IAD complaints. There was 30 of them. And I'd get a young guy with a verbal abuse or something real minor, and he'd be petrified. I said, let me ask you something. Read this complaint. What do you think we should do with this guy? And they'd look at all those complaints. They'd say, I guess you fired him. That's a lot of complaints. I said, hey, you're talking to him, baby. This ain't nothing. Calm down. And my wife had the greatest line of all. I said, I'm going to retire. They're putting me up on IAD. She goes, are you crazy? They're throwing the fox in the hen house, buddy. I said, you could be right. And that actually turned out to be a real good job.
Yeah, we had a good crew.
You could get a lot of policemen, and most of them lied to you anyway, So, I mean,
well, you're talking about the complainants.
right.
Oh, yeah,
right.
yeah.
And sometimes
No,
you
the
gotta
policemen
sit-
too. Yeah, the policemen too. But
Oh, geez. Hey,
All right, now.
Ron, this is one of Tommy's favorite questions to ask all our guests, and we'll ask both of you before we let you go. But, I mean, you served, was it 37 or did you do 40 years on the job?
I was in my 40th year.
You were in your 40th year. Over those 40 years, who would you describe as your mentor?
Well, there was three guys really, but two that really were Bob Lohr in narcotics. He was the guru, and Dennis Stolte. And when they were the geniuses, and actually Corona too. He was pretty good. And then Sal Sear. Nobody was more thorough than Sal Sear.
All narcotics guys, right?
All narcotics. And Sal actually was our cadet when I was in the bureau, And then he gradually became on the force.
Well, tell us a little bit about Sal and why he was your number one mentor.
He was so thorough. Like, I'll give you how thorough he was. We went to Canada, right? And he made a book this thick with every meal, everything we're going to do in Canada. Okay, and he did the same thing on a dope case. He would have the driver's license picture, the house, I mean, everything. And he just was so thorough. I mean, and he was so smart. I mean, he was
I think Sal was involved in the Bay case very depthly, wasn't he? Him and Donnie Mandrella from DEA, wasn't it? Yeah.
I believe he went on and became an instructor, a teacher at Webster College.
Yeah. Well, he still is. He still teaches.
Oh, does he?
And then he went on to DEA, and then he became an intelligence analyst with DEA.
U.S. attorneys, right?
At the U.S. Attorney's Office. Yeah. And he also worked with Bear, the federal attorney.
Yep.
Denny, tell us who your mentor would be out there in St. Louis County.
It was
for your
Ron.
9 years.
Besides
Ron. Yeah, besides
Well,
Ron.
don't say Hugh Hefner either.
Oh, damn. Okay, let me think. No, definitely not him. If you want to be good, I'd just watch him and do the opposite.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd always, true story, Jack Patty, he was a captain, Korean Marine war vet, a badass to the bone, Golden Glove champion, had that nose. When he had those squinty eyes like boxers have, if he looked at you, your blood ran cold. I mean, and I watched, he'd knock every guy with one punch. And, he'd just walk up, say something, and boom. He didn't have to, he shot several. I mean, he had to Mill of Valor, I think, a few times too, but just a good cop. And he took me under his wing. Fraser Gardner, a black sergeant, when we took over Kinloch the first time. They needed 6 officers. 6 of us were white. He was black. And he was on loan from narcotics. And they said, we want guys that can take a punch, give a punch. But he taught me how to be a cop, street cop.
Right.
Because in the county, it's a different thing than the city. Like you guys things are kind of closed in. Helicopters, you're at 500 feet, but Kinloch was the only time in my whole police career. I got 1 million pills on a dope bust. I got a ton of weed, all records still, I think. But I saw no difference. Kinloch, after 6 months, we took 200 of the worst people in the world who suppressed the other 6,600 good, poor people. And I saw good, and they loved us. They baked cakes for us. They talked, it was really worthwhile.
Nice.
So I want to just get to one story with Dennis, and just for the listeners, I'll set this up that Dennis dated the Playmate of the Year, or not dated, and lived with at the time, lived with and dated the Playmate of the Year, and her name was Patty McGuire, and she was on the, obviously on the 1976 issue of Somewhere. But Dennis dated her, and Dennis was invited to the Playboy Mansion for several parties due to that. And tell us just one story about meeting Hugh Hefner. And
the coolest thing, when I was in narcotics, I was still in narcotics then the first time I went out there, and Hef liked to smoke a little weed. He only drank Pepsi.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, he wasn't into drinks. I mean, he drank Pepsi. He really did. He's always in his pajamas. And he smoked an occasional joint. California had a $100 civil fine. It wasn't even a criminal thing. So I'm out there for a New Year's Eve party, and we're in a game room. And
Now, are you a policeman at this time?
Yes, I'm a narcotics detective. So anyway, and the feds were trying to bust him. They actually had one of his employees, a lady up in Chicago, and they were trying to get her to flip on Hef. Hef was not into the dope like that. I mean, he smoked a little weed. There's other people who would offer you stuff. I never would do that. But anyway, so we're in a game room, and I'm on a pinball machine, had Patty's likeness on it. Valley made it special. And he's at the next pinball, and he says, hey, Denny, he says, I see you're on Patty's pinball machine. I said, yeah. He says, pretty neat, isn't it? I said, oh, that is cool. And he takes a hit, and he hands it to me. I said, hell, when in Rome. So I took a hit, too. So I handed back to him, and I started laughing. And he says, what's so funny? I said, I cannot believe I'm smoking a joint with Hugh Hefner. He says, I can't believe I'm smoking a joint with a narc.
I can't believe he just said that.
That's why I only worked for 10 years.
He's too late to get fired now.
Yeah, long way from that. But it was out there. It wasn't even a misdemeanor. It was a civil thing. So when I was in Europe, you could
just fun, but just being at the Playboy Mansion. I mean,
the whole
that's gotta be fun.
And you get to meet a lot of celebrities, and he trotted me out a lot. Like he'd sit me down on a big table, look like an aircraft carrier. It'd be like Brian O'Neill and James Caan and all these, Gene Jacob. They made the movie Shampoo about it. And I'm sitting there talking, and I'm just sitting there listening, and he's talking. He's at the end of the table. And finally one of them says, excuse me, he says, we kind of all know each other. I don't know you. He says, who are you? I said, I'm Denny Klier. And he goes, and Hef says, that's Patty McGuire, the new Playmate of the Year. That's her boyfriend. Oh, okay, So anyway, they said, well, what do you do, Denny? And I said, I'm a cop. I mean, the room went dead silent. I mean, and they're all staring at me. You can feel, what that means. So I'm looking at them, and I go, and they go, are you an LA cop? Just like, are you an LA cop? I said, St. Louis. Oh, that's okay, man. These guys are pricks. And I went, really? So we start talking. And I said, do you know any cops? And none of them, they said, no, we don't. But they're arrogant bastards. We're going down Mulholland. I said, okay, look, can I give you my take? They said, sure. I said, I'm sitting at this table and I've watched every one of you on a big screen. And by God, you convinced me you're a gangster, a murderer.
Sonny from Godfather was there, James.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah. So they're all. I'm hitting every one with their big thing, you know. And I said, and I'm going to tell you, in St. Louis, I'm sitting there looking up at you. You had me convinced that's who you were and what you were. I said, you are great actors. And I said, but when you're going down Mulholland Drive 110 and that red Ferrari of yours with the tops off, and that LA cop pulls your ass over, and he's about as low as, you know, a candlestick maker. I said, you're thinking, does this guy not know who I am? I'm so-and-so. I'm somebody. I'm famous. He's nothing.
Right.
And they go, yeah, what's your point? I go, he's on his stage doing his acting.
Yeah.
And then they laugh. And then Hefner told me later, I'm sorry I put you to the Lions, but he said, I knew you'd handle yourself. But they were shaking my hand. Gene Jacob, that made the movie Shampoo about it, he shook my hand. He says, he's across the table. He said, I got to shake your hand. Shook his hand. I said, why? And he said, because as you said, we all have these huge egos and we're all world famous. And you're a cop from St. Louis. But he said, you had every one of us shut up for 30 minutes and listen to every word you said. So it was kind of neat. But Hefner treated me, he was a gracious host, and we were actually friends. And
I can't picture anybody standing around a table and listening to you talk at 100 miles an hour. I couldn't even picture that.
Well, I'll tell you something better than that. Better than that, he can eat.
Just trying to picture it in my head right now.
He eats for 3 people, and he can talk that fast. And I'm not kidding. And they'll beat you eating food.
I had a heart attack doing a Patriot Guard mission, holding a flag in a mortuary. I said, this doesn't feel right. And I drove to the hospital on my Harley. The doc's putting 3 stents on me, 99% blocked. And he said, you rode your Harley here? I said, seemed like a good idea at the time, Doc. So he's asking me my diet. And I said, for lunch, I ate 3 triple steaks, 3 fries, a milkshake, and 3 Cokes. He goes, well, and while he's doing this, he goes, what do you eat for dinner? I said, whole chicken or 2 16-ounce steaks. He goes, I'm afraid to ask. What do you eat for breakfast? 6 to 8 eggs, pound of bacon, toast, juice, coffee. He goes, and if you ate
been here 3 years ago.
Yeah, no, he said if you ate for 1 instead of 3, you wouldn't be here.
And when we walked in the operating room, when he was getting put the stents, the doctor's looking at me and he goes, "Are you guys, were you his brother?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "We got a pool going on him on the second heart attack. If you want to get in on this, doc." And he looked at me like, "Are you kidding?"
But it was just, I can eat, I don't gain weight. That's the blessing I've had. Our father had that metabolism. I got it. I got my mother's blood pressure, unfortunately, and high cholesterol. But the point being, you don't have anything to stop you. So, and the Patriot Guard, they always give you something to fit your personality. My ride name, the Patriot Guard, is Tapeworm, and it's embroidered on it's embroidered on your vest. They always give you a name. Ron would be, pick a name.
How about Mushmouth for?
Hey, Ron, let's close with this question. Would you do it all over again?
Sure.